met her in the fall. He took her to a movie, and when they done it all, he took her.
Hello and welcome to the Fabulous Picture Show. I'm Amanda Palmer, and this week we have a real-life superstar. Actor, filmmaker Aamir Khan is here to screen his satirical new film, Peepli Live.
But so did I.
No, it's not Aamir Khan's premiere. It's the media reaction to one farmer's get-out-of-debt-free plan.
अरे भैया आत्महत्या का सरकार पैसा देती है पैसा.
In this special Q&A, we learn that this Bollywood superstar is also super nice.
Oh, you guys thought I was going to be rude and... Yeah.
And we find out how an unsuspecting chauffeur ended up in Guantanamo.
The problem with Mr. Hamdan's case is one of guilt by association. They see Mr. Hamdan standing next to bin Laden, and so therefore he must be a terrorist.
But first, is traditional Islam compatible with European values? A lot of people, yes, you France, are asking that, and a new film asks that as well. Burhan Kabani's debut feature, Shahada, is about German-born Muslims trying to reconcile their family faith and traditions with a modern lifestyle. The film focuses on three characters, beginning with party girl Mariam, who turns radical after an illegal abortion.
Mach die Beine auseinander.
Then there's devout Sammy, struggling with an attraction to his co-worker Daniel.
Kannst du nicht einfach mal die Fresse halten? Warum denn? Passt du auf mich auf oder nicht?
And finally there's Turkish cop Ismail, who falls in love with an illegal immigrant.
Alles in Ordnung, Sie können gehen.
The film is inspired by Kabani's memories of his grandfather reciting the Shahada, the Muslim declaration of faith.
Miriam, was sollte der Streit mit den Frauen? Macht sich schon überall die Runde. Die Funde in meiner Gemeinde, die reichen mir schon.
Who do you want to see this film? Because certainly in the Muslim world, it is going to be problematic. Some of those scenes are going to be difficult.
Our approach was not actually towards the Muslim world. It was much more towards the Western world, wishing that our film could make people be more interested and asking about Islam, about the Muslim way of life.
Gott ist groß.
Was?
Der Anhänger, da steht, Gott ist groß.
During our research, we realized how little so many people know about Islam. Everyone is talking about dialogue, how we have to get closer, but how can you do that if you don't know anything?
With over 20 million Muslims in Europe, the film comes amidst widespread debate on the compatibility of Islamic social values with European norms.
Du hast eine Entscheidung getroffen, weißt du noch? Dass du dein Leben nicht kaputt machen lässt. Und dass du das Kind wegmachen wirst.
Maybe our film could inspire people to say, oh my God, I didn't know that. I would like to know more about that. And oh my God, they have the same problems as we have. Let's try to talk to each other, you know.
Hör einfach auf, mir hinterher zu rennen. Okay? Das mache ich. Versprochen. Ich hau ab. Ich komme nicht mehr wieder. Sag's nur einmal, dass es dir auch gefallen hat.
Can I ask you, you're a practicing Muslim?
Yes, I am.
So how do you reconcile showing a homosexual kiss?
What I'm doing is an art form, and it is not reality. I'm not doing a documentary. It's a statement, it is a message, it is a story that we tell and that we felt we had to tell.
Es war einfach falsch, okay? Was hat dir gefallen? Es war einfach falsch. Was hat dir gefallen? In meinem Glauben darf man das nicht.
If we start being careful and talking about hard facts or realities which are dangerous, then we're endangering our own democracy. We are endangering our own freedom.
Kabani is a 29-year-old German Afghan, and Shahada, his graduation project, competed for the Golden Bear at Berlin this year. Did you ever wonder what your grandfather would say about this film?
I hope he would have been there yesterday and seen the people who admired this film so much in the audience. It was just an amazing screening, and maybe I hope he would be proud of his grandson.
I hope so.
Ach, Also folge mir und ich will dir den ebenen Weg leiten.
Hör auf. Hör auf zu zitieren.
You might think that a documentary about Osama bin Laden's personal bodyguard could be pretty interesting. Well, it is.
Laura Poitras' second in a trilogy of documentaries about America's post-9/11 foreign policy.
من هذا يا حبيبي؟ هذا أنا. هذا من؟ بابا ثاني.
Follows Abu Jandal, who served as Osama bin Laden's personal bodyguard during the 1990s.
عم سالم فين؟ في كوبا. في كوبا؟ إيش قاعد يصير في كوبا؟ من حبسه؟
أمريكا. You're taking on the so-called villain of our times, really, in terms of deconstructing the myth and kind of taking us to the human side of it.
The film really does exist with, you know, sort of companion with my other film called My Country, which was about civilians living under the U.S. occupation of Iraq. That film allowed American audiences to understand Iraqis as human beings. With The Oath, it's a way to look at Al-Qaeda and actually understand it. You know, not just see it as this, you know, terrifying force, but to actually look at it and to see, you know, what motivates people.
طب ليش تسيب مجاهد؟ لك. مثلي أنا أحسن لك أريد تورط لك خلك حالك عن نفسك.
After 9/11, Abu Jandal breaks his pledge of loyalty and becomes a taxi driver in Yemen.
تفضلي.
السفارة السعودية يمن مول. Essentially, it's a very personal story. The Oath says things like, you're not to challenge leadership, and here is a man who's very outspoken in saying, I am examining everything I did.
He ultimately left because I think he had some disagreements of how things were working, and I think he's somebody who's also very conflicted because he has now the younger generation who are, you know, critical of him, and they call him, you know, an infidel for talking to the West.
Well, this is a man who receives death threats constantly.
Yeah, he receives death threats.
فأكون على حذر من هذا الشخص عرفني أكثر من الآخرين يعني. أنا من الجيل الجديد ما أعرف كثير منهم. قد يكون هذا من الجيل الجديد، قد يكون سهل جاهز للاغتيال يعني.
How do you meet someone like this?
You know, I mean, I went to Yemen. I wasn't looking to find him, but I met him on the second day of my trip, and I was like, wait a second, you drive a taxi cab and you were bin Laden's. He wasn't driving me. No, that would have been a good story, you know. Yeah, I met him because he was Salim Hamdan's brother-in-law, and I was interested in making a film about Guantanamo.
Salim Hamdan, bin Laden's personal driver, was the first detainee to stand trial in Guantanamo.
السؤال الثاني ما جاب عليه الصفة القانونية لهذه المحكمة اللي تحاكم الناس على ضوء اعترافات منتزعة انتزاع.
But it isn't just Abu Jandal who questions American leadership.
The thing about The Oath is that it also has characters that are really heroes, like the U.S. military lawyers putting their careers on the line to defend people. In a way, it's actually a patriotic film.
I think the problem with Mr. Hamdan's case, as I said, is one of guilt by association. They see Mr. Hamdan standing next to bin Laden, and so therefore he must be a terrorist.
What's next? Because this is a trilogy.
Well, I want to do something on the 9/11 trials. They've been in custody since 2002, and there hasn't been a trial.
الشهر هنا يمر كسنة، وإنني أعاني من آلام في الظهر والقدم والهرش نتيجة العزل عن ضوء الشمس.
Look who I've got next to me, Amir Khan. He's here to screen his film Peepli Live, which is a film that you produced.
Yeah, that's right. This is a film I've produced, and it's written and directed by Anusha Rizvi. This is her first film. And it's essentially a satire about how we are as a society today. It's a satire on politics, media, bureaucracy, and civil society in general.
It's a very dark comedy, but I have to say it's one of the funniest films I've seen all year, truly.
I think Anusha has used humor rather well to tell the story, which is actually quite heartbreaking and sad in essence. I think her characters are very vibrant, and yeah, she does use humor rather well.
Thank you for bringing the film. Come back in part 2. More of that.
He met her in the fall.
Please welcome Amir Khan to the fabulous Picture Show. He is a true superstar, and I'm so honored to have you here.
No,
Thank you so much.
It's a pleasure to be here, and welcome all of you for the screening of the film that I've produced. It's called Peepli Live. It's about the growing divide between urban and rural India. And while it's not a film about farmer suicides, but it is to be viewed in the backdrop of the alarming number of farmer suicides that have been plaguing our country over the last 2 decades.
I want to tell you all that this is the first Indian film to ever be accepted at the Sundance Film Festival, so I know you're going to enjoy it, and thank you so much for your gracious introduction.
Thank you. Thanks.
Yes, uncle.
In the remote village of Peepli, farmers Budia and Natha get some bad news.
काय बुलाया था बैंक में? काय बुलाया था बैंक में? काय बुलाया था बैंक में? जो जमीन की नीलामी के लिए बुलाया था.
With Natha's wife less than pleased,
हरामी बर्बाद करके रख दिया. चले आए दोनों. बात कहाँ है?
They seek counsel with the local politician.
ये चिंता काय कर रहे हो? वहाँ जाते भाई ठाकुर के गोड़ पकड़ के ऐसे रहूँगा कि उनका दिल पसीज जाएगा.
Who has some unexpected advice.
तुम एक चीज तो दे सकते हो. अपनी जान दे दो सरकार को.
But it's no joke.
हमारा बस चलता तो अपनी जान दे के भी जमीन बचा लेते.
तुम काहे दे भैया जान? हम दे दें जान.
With a nudge from his brother,
पक्का?
Natha decides to take action.
तू क्यों मरने वाला है?
अरे भैया आत्महत्या का सरकार पैसा देती है पैसा.
The story is picked up by a local reporter and makes national news.
दीपक मुझे ये स्टोरी प्राइम टाइम पे चाहिए हर कीमत पे, वो भी लाइव के साथ.
Natha soon finds himself in a media frenzy. Transformed from peasant farmer to political pawn.
जन समाज दल की ओर से ये टीवी लाओ भाई टीवी ले आओ. लाओ जल्दी लाओ.
Peepli Live is produced by Aamir Khan, one of Indian cinema's true luminaries. Born to a family of filmmakers, he started as a child actor in a Bollywood hit directed by his uncle. 15 years later, he had his big breakthrough in a film directed by his cousin. He followed this with a string of successes as an actor, producer and director. In 2001, he produced and starred in Laden, an international blockbuster about a group of villagers who take on the British Army in cricket. As an actor, he continues to be a Bollywood icon. And as a producer with Peepli Live, Amir Khan has empowered first-time director Anusha Rizvi to deliver a stinging satire of a society undergoing seismic shifts.
तो किसानी में का धरा है? अमेरिकन बीज डालो, अमेरिकन खाद डालो, ऊपर से भगवान से आस लगा बैठे रहो कोई पानी हो जाए.
इसलिए भैया शहर चले जाओ. तभी गांव में गांव घिसत रहे, अब शहर जाके घिसो.
Since 1991, 8 million people have given up farming in India. That's a huge transition from an agrarian culture. It is increasingly being industrialized as a country, and many would say that's a good thing to be further industrialized as a developing nation. But obviously, they're not dealing with some of these major societal issues at the rate that they should be.
But my instinct is that when you have such a large number of people moving away from their roots and where they belong and where their emotions are and where their relationships are, where their memories are, where their culture is, it must be having some sort of a psychological impact, you know, on a large scale.
Anusha Rizvi was a former journalist, and she wanted to deal with this issue. And she said she'd never written a script before. She persisted and persisted. You actually got her to read that script to you. What was the most compelling part of this film?
The way the characters were, the way the lines were, I've found it very real and, you know, very engaging and very sensitizing for someone like me who's lived in a city all his life.
मुझे बता दो कि भाई ठाकुर ने क्या कही? आत्महत्या कर लो, ये कही है. हाँ, तुम्हें कुछ उल्टा पुल्टा किया होगा. अरे समझा अपनी जोरू का जिंदगी हराम कर दिया है. बाप रे, मरो भेजा निकल पड़ो.
I've read that this is very much Indian humor. Is this Indian humor? But the humor did translate.
ये डाइन के कारण हुआ. हाँ, सब हमें करनी से भाव है. अरे चुप रहा, उल्टा. चुप रहा.
They were true geniuses, those two. What casting? Were they? Did you find them? Were they plausible characters? Little too close to the bone sometimes, maybe.
अरे कौनी घड़ी में तो है घर लाए थे रे माटी मिली ताई का गुग्गू की नाई बैठाए रे.
It's actually, what is amazing about the humor is it's very real. So it's not slapstick or it's not situational. I mean, at times it is situational, but I'm saying it, what you see in the film actually happens back home in India.
और सखी सैया तो खूब ही कमात हैं और महंगाई डायन खा जात है सखी.
There is a scene where Natha's brother is singing a song about inflation and all these things, singing about, real life problems really happening. Is it true or is it reflecting something that is true?
Actually, it's true. It's quite amazing that you asked this question because it was not in the script. But while Anusha was shooting in this village, the local band of villagers who used to make music for the village, and this was a song that they were singing. History is very oral in nature. We have a very oral tradition. I think from the time that we are born till the time that we die, we have a song for every situation.
Because your films are now becoming more internationally known, do you think there's a need to change films or cater for the Western audience?
No, I don't believe in cutting a film differently. I mean, let's take a film like Laden, for example. It's a mainstream Indian cinema film, it's a musical, and that film traveled all over the world. And it had nothing to do with me. The first time it was shown was at a festival called Locarno. And in Locarno, there is a space called the Piazza Grande, which is an outdoor open-air theatre, which seats 10,000 people. It's 3 hours, 42 minutes. We normally have it with an intermission. But at the Piazza Grande, we had to knock off the intermission. Because imagine 10,000 people getting up to go to the loo. That's the end of the screening. So it ran at a stretch for 3 hours, 42 minutes. And the audience there just loved it. The people in the festival are mostly Swiss, Italian, German, French. None of them know what cricket is. And the film has a lot of cricket in it. And they've probably never seen a musical before.
No, with
Bollywood
cricket.
film, yeah. So in that festival, it won Audience Award for Best Film. So we didn't cut the film any other way. It was how it was. And it finally went on to get nominated at the Academy.
Certainly in Bollywood, we see a certain representation of India that allows you to escape for those 3 hours and 42 minutes. And this one doesn't do that. Independent film is finding audiences in India as well, slowly but surely.
Yes, I think if a story is engaging emotionally and it's a human story, then you connect with it.
ये हमसे नहीं होगा, तुम कर लो ना.
पगला को है कहाँ? हैं? हम कैसे कर सकते हैं? अब तो तेरी फोटो भी टीवी में छप गई है.
If you had been offered a part in that film, who would you would like to have played in it?
Quite honestly, the director Anusha and I were flirting with the idea of me playing Natha, the lead character. But then, in the process of the auditioning, she found Omkar. Both of us just loved him. There's no way I could have come even close to what he's done, I believe.
चाचा जी बोले कि तुम मर जाओगे तो मैं ठेकेदार बनूंगा.
हाँ, तू ठेकेदार बनेगा.
नहीं, मैं तो थानेदार बनना चाहता हूँ.
अरे बाप मरे तब तू थानेदार बनेगा. ससुरी के एक लगूंगा बाप यहाँ से.
While producing the movie, I mean, did you come across any difficulties or anything like that? Especially it relates with politics and all these things.
Can I quote him for a minute? Yeah. What did I read? Filmmaking is a crisis a day.
Yeah, that is true. Did we have any problems with politicians? No, we didn't. We didn't. Did we have any problems with the media? No, we didn't, actually. I have to say that the media didn't quite behave how we are showing them. Actually, I think the film is critical of all of us as a society. It doesn't leave anyone out, really.
बहन जी देखो देखो ये अब घुमा ये बजाओ बजाओ आप देखो इसको और हम देख रहे हैं कि यहाँ खुद माता ने संकेत दिया है इन दो औरतों के माध्यम से कि नत्था अवश्य मरेगा किंतु नत्था जीवित रहेगा.
Do you think that this movie will be able to, even in the slightest way, make a change to farmers' living conditions?
I'm quite an idealist. And I think that everything that we do does affect people. More than 200 MPs have seen the film. In fact, the Prime Minister saw the film. He commented about how it is a film that really does show how there are almost two Indias within our country, one which is urban and one which is rural, and this is a issue that we really need to address, and this is something he said. So I'm quite hopeful, yeah.
I think we're very privileged to have you here. You are nothing like I thought you'd be.
No?
You're so polite and generous. I was expecting a little bit of a diva, you know.
Oh, you guys thought I was going to be rude and... yeah.
Thank you so much, all of you, for coming and for your great questions. And thank you very much, Aamir Khan, for
thank you.
coming on the Fabulous Picture Show. Peepli Live.
भाई मौत की ऐसी रौनक हमने कभी देखी नहीं है। अरे काय की रौनक सरकार, हमारे ऊपर तो मुसीबत का पन्ना अलग खुल गया है। अरे कुछ नहीं है ये, अगर अगले 2 दिन के भीतर नत्था नहीं मारा ना तो हम तुम्हें मार देंगे।
Well, that's it for this Fabulous Picture Show. The next time you see Aamir Khan is going to be in Mumbai Diaries. And you're very steely and strong in that one, aren't you?
Well, yeah, I'm supposed to be a bit of not a very pleasant guy. Mostly.
Pensive.
Well,
Introvert.
more than pensive. I think he's very rough edges and doesn't like people around him. And yeah.
Nothing like the real you, huh?
I'd like to think that.
बुधिया कहाँ मर गए हो है?
अम्मा
तुम कहाँ से आए हो?
टीवी से आया।
बंग से आए हो, बंग से?
नहीं अम्मा, टीवी से आया थोड़ा।
अरे खेत जमीन तो ले चुके हैं, अब काले हाथ छान छप्पर।
On a scale of 1 to 10, how would you rate this film?
Oh, 9 out of 10, definitely.
It's just like a subject matter I've never seen a film about before.
There was a great balance between, you know, the green story and the really fantastic comedic moments.
It was just jam-packed. It had drama, it had comedy, it had great music.